Okay.
You got everybody you need?
Yeah.
Right there, the mayor's. It's his meeting.
Is it?
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Let's call this meeting to order. It's Tuesday, May 14th. I guess the first meeting is, we have ODOT informational meeting regarding safety improvements in Tiffin. Is that correct? And then we have at 9 o'clock, you're talking about that, and then 10 o'clock, you're talking about the county update. Is that correct, or are you doing everything all in one?
No, we were going to talk about the meeting that you had with Director Ray first, then give you the update, 15, 20 minutes, depending on how many questions you had on the county.
Okay.
So basically, my intent, or at least after discussion with Director Ray, was to, I also spoke with Senator Burke last month, but my schedule precluded me from getting here any sooner than now. So we talked about issues in the 3-county area of my district, Seneca, Sandusky, and Ottawa, concerns about safety on 53,
Okay.
discussions about bypass and Fostoria bypass in Tiffin,
Okay.
then ways to approach that. And then
Okay.
subsequent to that meeting, Commissioner Zoller, you had spoken or met with the governor, and then got connected with Director Ray, and Director Ray called me while I was in school and said, came to the meeting and heard the local concerns and was committing ODOT to re-engage in terms of looking at the corridor on 53. And not without the benefit of him being here, we didn't discuss the details. If you drilled down into the 3-county corridor, or if it was specifically Seneca County.
Okay.
But we've got a big elephant here to eat,
Okay.
and when I talked to Senator Burke and the director, it's the strategy, at least at this point, until a rainbow lands in our district and we have a pile of cash, is to eat this elephant one bite at a time.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll just turn it over to you and let you begin. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and before we get into the meeting.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, well, we'll just turn it over to you folks, and you can give us whatever you want in whatever order you want, and we'll...
Well, I guess since, to get started, I'm Tyler Depp, for anybody that doesn't know me. I'm the ODOT District 2 Deputy Director, and I brought along with me Mike Dramza, our planning and design engineer, and Jeff Lurkey, he's with the Office of Jobs and Commerce. I don't know if the director had anybody from your office in that meeting.
No.
The reason, and I talked about this in the county presentation, so I guess I can jump into it. Jobs and Commerce is one of the vehicles by which we deliver projects that are important to the community that wouldn't otherwise qualify for either safety funding, safety mitigation funding, track funding, and that's what Jeff and I do. We go out and we look at economic opportunity in areas where the communities want to get involved and bring infrastructure forward. Situation in my district, of course, I'm one of 12 districts, and we're competing statewide with about 4,000 safety projects. We came out here last year and we looked at 53 within the county and started a systematic program where we're working with the locals to enhance traffic from Wyandotte County up to Tiffin from the south. That's an area that we've studied regularly. I know District 1 before, a long time ago, had worked in Wyandotte County and addressed concerns in 53. And we're basically doing the same thing here in Seneca County. We haven't looked at the corridor from Wyandotte County to all the way up to Ottawa County. And last week we met with the Ottawa County Commissioners and we talked about State Route 2. But I know as a region, you guys are taking a look at this. So again, what we're trying to understand so we can work with you is what are your interests, what are your goals? I know talking with the Senator about concerns getting truck traffic out of Tiffin, that's one issue, but on our safety radar, statewide, this isn't making a strong return in comparison to the other safety hotspots. Again, safety is very important program within ODOT, but as traffic patterns change, the safety projects shift around the state, and we meet at least once a month, our safety review committee, and this area is an area of concern, but it's not a safety hotspot. So At this point, our strategy is still work on 53, but to look at the other interests and try to either engage a consultant to do further study, or figure out how to deliver the infrastructure that you want. So I guess at this point, I would defer to the mayor, what your concerns in Tiffin are.
May I speak?
Yeah, please.
Yeah,
You all right?
Informal,
This was
sir.
a formal meeting.
Yeah.
A lot of our concerns are just in the fact with the truck traffic going through the city limits. We've got one of which is right through the middle of the college at Tiffin University.
All right.
They come barreling over the railroad bridge, just damage to our infrastructure that they're constantly causing, whether it's curbing, city signs, that sort of thing. But there's a lot of concern in the Tiffin University area, especially, I guess, with the bridge there, and they come up over the bridge, and there's very little time when they're doing 35 to 40 miles an hour through the area. For students and faculty to cross. Up until a year ago, we also had an elementary school right there as well, St. Mary's. So there's just there's a lot of concern with the congestion, I guess, in that area. And then, like I had mentioned, just the damage that they're constantly causing to our city curbs, the signs, street lights, they're constantly hitting things. We've had trees downtown that they've hit. It's just getting traffic out, and we're looking at some sort of a bypass around the city, but we also see that as a real economic development tool to expand our industrial parks that we have along the corridor, because they exist right where that bypass would go around Tiffin.
Right, and the trucks that are going to be truck traffic that's going to be generated unless there's an alternative route are going to continue to go through Tiffin and increase in numbers. From a planning standpoint, I can, Mike, if you're comfortable discussing our process.
Yeah, I mean, what we've done, did you want to talk at all about what we've done so far on 53, or you want to talk specifically on what he...
Well, from the urban planning side and then safety studies and working with the locals on helping them, I mean, this
Sure,
is a discussion with Jeff as well.
There's safety studies that are available to our locals. It's just not, rural areas. So the city of Toledo has some safety projects. Other cities will have safety projects. Safety projects are scored by congestion, by number of accidents. They look at the cost to do the work, and then you put all that together, and you get a rate of return. Okay, and that's some of the problem with 53, is the rate of return on 53 is not going to score high enough to garner these larger safety projects at this time. The other option you have besides safety would be track funding. If you're increasing capacity, if you're building a bypass, would be track funding. Once again, the track funding has scoring that has a lot of those same scores, and that's the issue, is being able to score high enough to get on that list to be funded. So both of those things are a little bit problematic.
Right.
I don't know if you got any other...
Well, in regards to the track, I don't know how much the director covered this. We're with House Bill 51 and what's gone on with the new track process for picking capacity projects. I think today is the first hearing down in Columbus. They can aggregate projects with existing applications. I think as long as they're tier 3, they're not going to take and pull back any tier 1, which are projects funded for construction, and add to it. So projects under development, if they were aggregated, could be resubmitted on an application. And again, we're learning the process just like everybody else. Like Mike said, there's got to be something there that gives a value proposition for these types of projects to be considered. Otherwise, then we're looking at specific areas and trying to address it. In regards to the bypass, I don't know what if yes, sir.
Yeah, Todd, I'm Rich Fote. I'm the president and CEO of Seneca Industrial Economic Development
Okay.
Corporation. And one of the other issues, actually there's a couple of issues, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to be here today, but we have this bypass that we're talking about on the northwest side of town would connect 224 with 53.
Right.
Okay? It would directly dump into the 2 industrial parks that we have. We've already taken care of the first mile of the road between 53 and County Road 11. We got 629 funds and issued 2 funds from the state to do that a few years ago when we attracted one of our Japanese companies here. But the point is that we've got, right now, we've got 5 companies that have either expanded or in the process of expanding this year alone in those 2 industrial parks. One of the companies is currently expanding. The mayor and I had a meeting with this week. They're looking to buy acreage right next to them to double the size of the plant. So the point is that we're seeing a lot of success, and the traffic's only going to get worse. So there really needs to be something to address that. The second thing is looking at the safety factor with the truck traffic and the increase in volume. It's only going to get worse. I don't know at what level it's got to get really bad to get somebody's attention down in Columbus that, you know, this warrants ranking up there with the city of Toledo. When you look at what's happening right now, I mean, we've just got a lot of activity, and this is really an issue that it really needs to be addressed, because you know, I see it just getting worse and worse and worse. So that's where we're at today.
Let me just
Go ahead.
add to that just a little bit. The bypass issue, Mr. Zimmerman and I met with Senator Burke some time ago to follow up on Mr. Zoller's start on that. And we actually offered a match to do that. Was that a 20% match?
20%.
20% match to do that project. Senator Burke was going to try and earmark it in the budget and was told that he could not do that, but that there are ways that that could be accomplished through the ODOT process. And he's working at some level. I don't know if that's with the folks at District 2, if that's somebody in Columbus. I don't know who he was working with that, but he has met with ODOT folks a couple times on that. So I don't know if you have any, if you can comment on that at this time or not.
So you're saying Senator Burke met, well, I know that I've met with Senator Burke. I'm not
Okay,
sure if
okay.
he's met with anybody out of the central office.
I don't
in
know
discussions
either.
on
He said he
funding.
met with ODOT regarding it.
Okay.
Um,
Because I'll have to find out on that. But in answer to your question, you know, at what point does it get noticed? Again, when we're competing with all the other regions in the state, yes, it's when the number of crashes increases to the point where you have to fix it. So the strategy that we've been using in this district, we've been proactive in trying to have the plans ready, so that way, because that's a long lead item on this, and once, if you have a solution and the money becomes available, you can pull the trigger on it. But if it becomes a problem, then you got to start that process. It only gets worse. So I think the director committed to having us take a look at these, or working with the locals to take a look at these options. And I'm not sure, again, Mike, who's going to be the owner of anything in regards to the corporate, excuse me, the limits of the city to do that, and how I would participate. I don't know.
Well, you know, there was some of the economic discussion you made. You know, there has been some additional employment. And I don't know, Jeff, on your end, if you can comment on that.
Well, we've met with Rich and had discussions about how can we go about funding the potential bypass from 53 over to 224. And again, with jobs and commerce money, it has to be job creation, job retention, and private sector investment to start triggering grant dollars that can come from our jobs and commerce monies. But then also there has to be public investment as well. It's not ever going to be 100% coming from our jobs and commerce. We're usually about 25% of the overall project. And I think that's what we were discussing, is how do we go about making that initial safety and economic development project come to fruition. And that's where I start hearing about your potential for your $5 on your tax, on your license plate fees and things along that line. So I think if we go back to trying to eat this elephant one bite at a time, I mean, that seems to be something that we could work with, especially if you have job creation coming out of some of your industries north of town. So that would be one aspect that we could start working on now.
Now, were you guys looking to work through a transportation improvement district or regional?
We had not considered it yet, no.
All right.
Are we eligible to have the TED because we don't have a planning organization that we're part of? Because I thought we had to be part, and I thought somebody
No,
told me.
you don't
we-
have to be part of a planning organization.
Okay.
Sandusky County formed theirs with the commissioners and the county engineer. And they're working, the Terra Community College, they had an issue out there, and again, it wasn't one of those where there were an accident pattern established, but they had grave concerns, and so they set up a TID, qualified for money, and we've been contributing to the design solution and the environmental project development until they figure out how to pay, or use our participation to help pay for the project. So that model seems to be working pretty well up in Sandusky County, but I don't know, regionally, you guys probably could form one if depending on how you wanted to break this apart, or you could just look at it locally for the Tiffin portion of the project.
If I could add to that, Todd, there are new regulations that are coming out to qualify for TIDs, and I'll be meeting tomorrow to discuss that, and we'll have that information here shortly. But if you're a new TID, you have to have a project that totals about $15 million before you can be considered. And there's not a whole lot of money within the TIDs. There's like $3.5 million that goes around the entire state. So I think
On an annual basis, or?
on an annual basis.
Until we get the legislature to put more money in there.
And I think the most we've seen in our area is $200,000 or $250,000 for a TID.
Right, but they're using that for project
Planning.
development, planning, and then it's still qualified for construction.
Right.
So it's, when you take that and wipe the project, it's a substantial amount of money.
Let me, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know how to start this process. I've never been involved in government, but what I have heard is that we have discussed this for the past 10, 15 years. We continue to have a safety issue on 224 or 53. I understand the tracks. I think I understand the track system, that we don't have the demographics. We don't have a lot of these things, but at some time of life, we got to get something started somewhere. Yeah, I mean, I understand the director, and again, I have to apologize if I didn't go through protocol, but the governor called me. They seemed to hear what we're doing down here, supportive of it, and said that he would open up communication with Director Ray. My naivety, I went to him, I said, who the hell's Director Ray? Didn't even know him, so.
No, this is good, because these are the kind of conversations we need to have. We're still developing the process. Jeff and I go around and we don't tell anybody no. We're trying to find a way to organize this just the way that you are. What happened with House Bill 51 and the Turnpike only addressed about $7 billion of our committed obligations for major capacity. So how we fund transportation is fundamentally changing, and this concern is part of that process. In regards to the safety, we engaged last year, and we're going to continue to stay engaged. But I think this is at the next level of safety. This is in the over the horizon stuff. As companies come in, we don't want to be standing here not being able to grow anymore, and then have to address real safety concerns. Again, backing up to looking at the bypass and a cost, I guess I would go back to senior leadership within DOT and see how much money I could get, and then come back to either the county or the city and see what participation. And again, as we understand the problem, we can search for financing solutions. Whether it can get to $15 million if we aggregate it with the projects and qualify for a new TID, or whether we just start looking at buying right away and hopefully qualify at some point in the future.
You talk about a study, and we've been fortunate enough just over the last day or so that we found that there was a study that was conducted through SIDEC, through the chamber, through SIDEC, I think a private individual, and Jeff, you might want to show them. There's
Yes, the commission, and there's a
there was
copy for you right here.
Super 2 study that was conducted almost 10 years ago. The fact is there has been some studies that have been conducted, but we never get anywhere. We never get
Traction.
beyond that. And I applaud you, and I understand what you're saying, and that's the analogy I always use. It's an elephant. This is a huge project, and as the Director Ray mentioned too, he said, this is a huge project. We need to do it in segments. I'm fine with that, as long as we have an overall plan. We understand what the big picture is, and then we start dividing that off year by year by year and taking segments of that. I think that with the consortium that we've got together, now we understand Seneca County is a rural community. when you look at, Lucas and all the other large counties, that we fall down, way down on the food chain there. But as we combine forces with Sandusky County, Ottawa County, Seneca County, and, all those, the 4 counties there, that hopefully it gives us a little better ear at ODOT, and we need direction. We need direction, but the fact is I understand that we gotta look at the big picture, but then we have to start chopping off sections of that.
Right, and that's what I was talking about in terms of how to organize the political entities and who's going to be participating in this and who's going to pick up what share, how far do we take this. If we just focus in on Tiffin, the larger you make the study area, the more complex you make it. So, again, things have fundamentally changed at the DOT with the funding challenges. So we're actively trying to find other ways to deliver these projects. I've been with the DOT 20 years minus a 4-year stint in the private sector. I know things have changed substantially from the time I was deputy director before until the time I came back. We used to just come out and say no, and then the local would garner political support, and then money would show up. It's not working that way. We're seeing more success where we get the locals involved and we find alternative solutions in financing. And I think that's where we're at. We're trying to understand the problem. I think everybody does understand the problem. Now we just have to figure out how we're going to chop this elephant up and start eating it. But in the meantime, we're going to continue to do the routine safety upgrades where we can on 53.
Yeah, and let me thank you for that. We met in this room a year ago, a year and a half ago, whatever it was, and you promised 20,000 feet of ditch alterations on State Route 53 from Tiffin to Scutch, and you've done a bunch of those. I don't know how many feet.
We're hoping to have it all done this year.
By the end of the year,
But
yeah.
we do appreciate that and the signage upgrades. We don't want to sound ungrateful, so please, thank you.
And since you're on a roll, we also submitted a safety application for the
Site distance.
Site distance.
South of County Road 14 to
So-
remove that hill.
Chop
Oh,
that
that'd
down.
be great.
We put that in, and we're hoping that we'll have some success with that. We've turned that in on April 30th. We have interviews on Friday with the central office, and then by the end of May, we should know if we're gonna get funding.
By the end of this May?
Yeah, if we get funding.
So we got a good chunk of the concern already in the progress. It's just moving north through Tiffin and then onwards up to Sandusky and Ottawa County if they're going to participate.
Now, the study that we just gave you, that was paid for completely locally. So you talk about local buy-in and so on. Was that 30,000 for that study? Do you remember, Rich? It was 2005.
It was 22, I think.
22,000.
Back, was it Rich Martinko, deputy director back then?
I don't know. Manic Smith.
Manic,
It was
Yeah,
done,
yeah.
Manic and Smith.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was
This was back in 2000.
that was all
Yeah.
funded by the county commissioners and SIDEC and some private business people here in Seneca County. I think our main concern along State Road 53 would be that section, at least I'm speaking for myself, would be that section from Tiffin to McCutcheonville. And we gave you the safety, the crash statistics along that area then. And Mr. Zoller took those to Columbus as well when he went back down a few weeks ago. If you look at the crash statistics in that stretch, about a 7-mile stretch maybe, probably the worst anywhere on 53 that you'll find. And I don't see how that couldn't rank pretty highly. I guess what I'm looking to tap into, and I think what the board's looking to tap into is the turnpike money, which he specifically received a call from the governor about the turnpike money, and that this was exactly the type of project that the governor was looking for.
Yeah, again, I'm on the same side of the line as you guys in
How could
regards
we-
to how that's gonna pan out, because from a district level, the only way I can plan is on the traditional funding sources that I have, and that process whereby bonding off the turnpike revenues hasn't matured.
Hasn't
and
come down to your level
Hasn't come
yet?
down to our level yet, so
Okay,
we're
okay.
dealing with the tools that we have, and
Okay.
that's, I mean,
Okay.
I don't wanna raise expectations on that. Again, today, the track is meeting, and so hopefully, we'll get some further guidance on those. I mean, trust me, if you guys had $15 million, I would love to go ahead and spend it and build a road, but I'm in the same boat as you. We're trying to figure out a way to finance.
The director mentioned there was approximately 60 avenues that we could go for funding for these projects.
Yeah,
So there's
that's-
more than just the track system and so forth, so we need to, but I appreciate what the director's saying, is we have to look at the overall picture, the corridor. Just to fix it.
We have to develop a strategy that,
Yeah.
that we can move forward. It's either gonna be, you know, taking the major population areas, or we're gonna have to aggregate government entities along this corridor and come up with a long-range plan. But I think at least locally need to identify what the priorities are. And it sounds like within Seneca County, it's Tiffin to McCutcheonville, and then the bypass around Tiffin. So we'll find out what. And again, with that study, there was probably some relevant information, but in 10 years, traffic patterns change, stuff like that. So we'll see if there's any utility left in that, and see if we can get some resources from central office to assist on taking that. Because I don't like to start over and waste money that's already been spent.
Yeah, we don't either.
But do we want to look at the big picture? You know, 2 to 23, or the turnpike to 23.
And again-
And realize, as the director said, is under the direction of ODOT, we keep it so it doesn't get so grandiose, so it doesn't get so complex. Try to keep it focused.
Well, I think your North Central Ohio Regional Council can come up with a grand strategy. Then you're gonna have to work in sub-strategies for local interests and be responsive. Because if you work the grand strategy, if you look the port to port, that took 20 to 30 years. I don't think you wanna wait that long. That gives you an overall strategic direction to point towards. And if we can find ways to deliver these projects on a smaller basis, I think that's my opinion, the way forward on this. Again, we're gonna go back and look at the resources, and I appeal to you guys to work with the other political entities along this corridor and figure out how you wanna do this. Yeah, I was in New York when you guys had the meeting with Mayor,
With
the director.
Mayor Motz and Director Ray.
Yeah.
And myself,
Yeah.
and a people,
Rick?
person for the COG.
Rich, did you have something you wanted to?
Yeah.
yes, sir.
You made a comment about starting over. I guess that's my question. We've had a number of meetings with ODOT. The plan was given to ODOT at least one other time, a couple of times.
Right, I've got the bypass drawings that show the
Okay.
fertile route. So we've got a lot of stuff. It's not starting over. I just don't want I don't want anybody to think that we've got to start from ground zero. We've got a lot of information, and I don't want it to go to waste. Because that's 3 months, a year lost time.
And at least a portion of that bypass from 53 north over to 18 requires no right-of-way acquisition. It would
Right.
follow existing
Yeah, we've got a lot of
county and
limited
township
access
roads.
roads.
So there's no right-of-way acquisition, and you have a 20% match already committed through the county.
Okay.
Is that correct, Mr. Zimmerman?
For what we had planned on originally, yes.
Yes, okay. And he can provide you a copy of that. We give it to Senator Burke, and I don't know if it makes
All right,
it or not.
At this point, I really think we should get together again. I need to go back and get a little smarter, and then come back in probably a month, next month, and give you an update on where we're at, so we
Okay.
can continue to
Okay.
define the problem and start looking at the solutions.
Deputy Director, how can, I assume that's what China was, correct?
Todd, it's fine.
Okay, yeah. As we form this consortium, I think if we could have the assistance of ODOT as we go through this process, where you can kind of help us and guide us.
Right,
on
we're partnering
what we
this.
need to do.
We're partnering in this, and if like, again, if there was something that brought this onto the radar screen and made it a safety issue, would take the lead in it, but this is a regional concern, and ODOT is part of the asset, so we're all on the same team. So we'll go back and try to get as smart as we can on the opportunities and you know, what the director was thinking, and come back, you know, next month and discuss it, and hopefully keep it moving, and maybe find a way to get a consultant on board.
As we have our meetings, could we ask the assistants to have somebody from ODOT there? I think we've got one coming up in
June 14th.
June 14th.
Yeah,
I mean,
I can come in Mike Graham's staff. It worked for me.
Yeah.
I've also offered up to Todd and also to
I think this would be very helpful as we,
I don't
as we
see how
put
you
these
could do it
4
without
counties
us.
together. Yeah, I mean, we need to bring you on board so
Right.
you can, I mean, I understand we need to look at the big picture, and then we need to start biting it off pieces at a time,
Right.
dissecting it.
And again, what keeps me engaged in this whole process is basically when they split Jobs Ohio and Jobs and Commerce, we take an, besides safety and capacity, we take an interest in economic development. So this meets all the criteria to keep us engaged, and that's why I've got the team assembled that we have. So I guess from this point, so we don't keep chasing our tails and going in circles, we'll reconvene, we'll have somebody at your next meeting, then I'll try to get back before the end of June. And give you guys an update on where we're at.
Okay, just call, make
Sure.
appointment, we'll be happy.
We just wanna make sure in 4 years, we're not still talking about it. We at least
I think-
start something.
I'm feeling pretty good because I know last year we started and I just want to keep the momentum.
Yes, and
Yeah,
again.
but last year, that was more on a segment. I think.
But we're
looking
talking,
at the-
this is going to be a bunch of segments
Yeah.
that tie into an overall strategic
Yeah, but I
picture.
don't think we have that strategic.
No, we don't.
That
We
long
don't.
term.
We
but-
don't. And again, that's going to take cooperation between the government entities.
Yes, Wes.
If I could ask Todd, and for the audience, Todd, how's the safety statistics made up? And the reason I asked the question a couple years ago, my daughter had a hit-and-run accident. I went into the highway patrol post at Fremont, and the commander at the time had a map on his wall of various colored pins that
The type of
had
accidents.
fatalities,
Right.
Serious accidents and so forth. And when you looked at the pin placements, Seneca County especially had much fewer pins, and the post commander said that by the time an accident would occur in Seneca County, and I don't mean just 53, by the time their guys got there, the sheriff had been there and so forth. How is that data collected and used in your overall analysis? And could there be something that would be missing from the Seneca County standpoint?
The answer, could there be something missing? I'd have to say, yeah, there could be. Whether there's a lot missing, I doubt it. They are pretty good about getting the information either through the local or through the Department of Public Safety and then putting it back into our safety program. One of the things that we have going on out here, living in a small community, if you've been on the fire department or the local police force, in 10 years you see all the accidents out there, you know most of those people. And that's a difference between the higher population areas. That's why when I come out here, it is a local concern, and it should be a local concern, and people need to be interested in looking at it. But it does take on a different dynamic when you get into a smaller population center and everybody knows everybody in the county. But the answer to your other question, yeah, it's possible some things are being missed, but they are very good at getting that data. Sometimes it's not the freshest data in the world, but these are looked at.
We look at a
continuous
3-year
basis. Yeah.
basis.
So it gets caught up in the system. So if something were to pop up on the radar screen, we would know about it.
Yeah, we had the data from 8 to 11, and it was very distinct from Tiffin to McCutcheonville, much higher than from Scutch down to Upper. We had all that from every mile post, and I think the patrol provided that to us. So it was very, very distinct.
I guess something's way off of what we're talking here, but it has to do with financing. One of the things that ODOT's doing is contracting with port authorities to finance buildings and also.
I was the first one in the state to do it.
Were you?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
They're talking about the possibility of doing that with highways as well?
In the division of innovative delivery, they're looking at every option. Again, because we're facing a transportation crisis, fuel consumption going down, tax revenue for paying is not there. And now I'm getting into my opening remarks on the other presentation, but the Office of Innovative Delivery is looking at every value proposition. The way we delivered the Lucas County garage, the normal process was a 7-year planning and project delivery. Which, when you add the development side to the cost of the facility, it was a $12 million facility. I delivered it for $5.5 million in 1 year, which saved the taxpayer $7 million. It doesn't fit every model. It's not, But there are a lot of opportunities to get port authorities involved in public infrastructure. I know Toledo-Lucas County Port Authority is looking to diversify and go into additional type projects, and I think some of the other port authorities are starting to get interested in that. I don't think the department is quite mature in that policy yet. Again, we, like with State Route 18, Mike Gramser wrote the project development process for that when we didn't know what we were doing, and we delivered the project in 18 months. Same thing with project delivery for the garage, but that is an option, and I guess if there's a local port authority that may be interested in participating, you should get involved.
When the state looks at a project, they have to have all the money set aside for that to do it, to move ahead with it. So if you're looking at a $50 million project, they've got to have $15 million set aside for that, or?
Mike, can you answer that question?
That's a tricky question. Not necessarily. When we go to track and track puts us on the list, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get the money for construction. We might get the money for development of the project, the plans, I'm thinking of some stuff we've got going up on 75-475, $160 million project, and we've got about $8 to $11 million that we actually have for the design. So we don't have that other $160 million. We're hoping through this next round of track, going to the turnpike and what have you, we'll get funded for the rest of that. But no, you can be funded through track for a portion of it. And most of our projects that are out of the district, we have the funding set aside. But some of the track projects, no, they have development money and then they go into construction in a later period of time.
Once they go into construction, they've got to have all that money set aside.
Correct.
Yeah,
Once you sell it, usually you sell it, well, sometimes they can be multiple contracts, but you still have all of that funding available depending on what year you're going to sell each of the pieces of that contract. So you do need it at that
This
point.
is a moving target. He's talking about track. I'll give you a couple other examples. Toledo-Lucas County Port Authority, VX Solutions, right there at the airport. There was a concern about keeping that business there and growing it and the potential to move truck traffic through the area. Well, there was no safety issue out there, but if truck traffic increased to 200-300 trucks a day like they predicted, we would have had a huge problem out there. So we, as a district, we started, because it was our right-of-way outside of anybody's corporation limit, we started doing a safety study and plan development to have a solution ready. If they got the business or the business continued to grow, we could respond quickly. The Port Authority also had an interest in delivering that project because they wanted to develop the property north of US 20A. So they got involved and they committed some of their money, and they also looked to go to get CIV loan to finance a project. And like Jeff said, even from the private side, there's a value proposition at moving down that corridor when you have a certain reliability rate for deliveries of products. So they were expecting to share the cost with the people that were going to benefit by that improvement. So we worked with the plan, and we're still moving forward with the plan. And if something were to happen, we're going to execute. That model changes for every problem, because not every problem is the same. And again, I appreciate you bringing that up, because if there is, Jeff, any of the port authorities interested, you may want to bring them in
Well, Rich is with the Port Authority as well.
All right. Yeah, talk to Paul Toth. Hopefully he'll talk to you.
Last time I saw him, he did.
So, if you don't mind, I can jump right into this. We can keep going, or you want to take a break? Or?
Well, we advertised that for 10 o'clock. I
Okay.
suppose we ought to wait till 10 just in case somebody's coming. Let me just sum up here, if I can, what we talked about here and see if we're on the same page. We talked about the bypass around Tiffin, primarily using existing roads, and you're going to look into see what the status of potential funding for that is. And then the State Route 53 corridor, the complete corridor we're interested in, but at least for some of us, specifically from Tiffin to McCutcheon, will be the area of most need.
All right.
And you will come back in a month or whenever you have
I'm
more
going to
information.
come back next month, whether I stand here and say I have nothing to report
Okay,
or not. I'll
okay,
be
we
back, because
appreciate that.
otherwise,
Okay, okay.
that'll force me to.
And then you're gonna give us your annual construction update, and we did advertise that for 10 o'clock. So
Okay.
I guess I just feel comfortable waiting till 10.
All right, so coffee and donuts across the hall then.
There's water cooler down there. So
We're
let's
just a
take,
rural county.
I would have brought them, Jeff would have told me he didn't get them, so. All right.
we're just gonna take a recess till 10 o'clock, so feel free to chat.
Can I have this study, or is this
That's
my copy?